Hey YouTube, this is the Art of Prepping. Thanks for joining me on a bonus video today. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on the ultralight backpackers. Backpacking on maybe like 20 pounds or less packs. There's of course we've talked about before. There's different categories of lightweight backpacking, and they can get kind of almost insane on how low they try to go. But just in terms of backpack between like 10 to 20 pounds, which is pretty respectable weight in terms of getting things down that low. As an ultralight backpacker myself, I have to say that I enjoy the luxury that it gives me. And a lot of people don't understand. They think that you're cutting capability. But if you do it right, I think that you can honestly have the same capability. You can also increase your skill sets to cover the differential in the type of gear that you would have had to carry. But besides that, you can get away with a lot of stuff. Now, when we're talking about ultralight backpacking, we're talking about maybe on a weekend trip. It could be just even a day hike for a lot of people. At the very most, people would never go much longer than a week or two. I mean, just the average citizen doesn't have the option to do that. With work schedule and family life, it's very difficult for a lot of people even get away for the weekend. I mean, it's a pretty big deal these days. But even if you pushed it for a whole week or two, I think that ultralight backpacking has a lot to offer for us to take in consideration for prepping. And it's not always about upgrading certain gear. Like, for example, I hear a lot of people say, well, it's just a ploy to get you to spend more money to basically replace everything you already have with something that's lighter weight and blah, blah. There is something to be said about that, but it's not really the direction that I'm going at all. I'm not trying to get you to buy anything more per se. Now, I will admit, though, that certain things make more sense to upgrade. For example, if you're used to a really, really heavy, let's say you carry this big, heavy stainless steel pot around, camp pot or cooking pot, and you downsize in size and you get it in titanium, you're going to have like a world difference of carrying that. It'll be almost magical of how comfortable and how much you don't even notice it there. The bulk and also, of course, the weight. So there's some things like that you can either downsize just in size because you don't need that much. Like if you're just by yourself, why would you need, a pot that's close to 2 liters or something? I've seen people do that, carry these big pots. And when you see them cook, they're not even filling the pot even a third. And you're like, I wonder why they have a big pot. Maybe that's all they have. And if that's all you have, that's cool, man. Everybody has their own financial things. But if you have the option to pick the pot that you really want, wouldn't you really want something that is that actually fits your size? Like I've gotten a few comments on one of my last videos talking about my Tokes 550 milliliter titanium pot. It can also be used as a cup, and it does have a nice little rim around the edge there, and you can use it as a cup. And so it's really multifaceted, and you can even slide that on top of a canteen or a water bottle, and so it's all very snug and out of the way. But I've had a couple people, one in particular said, they're probably a cool person. They probably didn't mean nothing about it. I prefer this 750 milliliter version or whatever. And, everybody has their own preference. Hey, it's fine. If you like a bigger pot or a cup, hey, that's cool, man. Go for it. But it's almost like everybody has this need to kind of push a little bit of what they want to tell you that you should have. Instead of, just getting what you need and you need. And so I don't worry about what other people say. I think 550 milliliters, which is over a half a liter, I mean, how much food do you need to make in one meal? Even if I was to cook or make a drink, I mean, you're going to drink a half a liter that quick? I just don't think you are. I mean, I just kind of don't know, especially if I have the stainless steel canteen and stuff. I mean, that's a 40 liter. I mean, it's a heck of a lot of fluid that would probably last most people at least over a half a day. Some people in cooler weather, when they're not being very strenuous in their activities, could possibly maybe even last all day. It just depends of how big you are and how, active you are and the heat and stuff. But it's just one of those things that sometimes I'm a little bit amazed, a little shocked that I'm like, okay, everybody kind of pushes their own philosophy. I'm not trying to push philosophy so much as to just kind of maybe look at what is the more efficient type of thinking. And so, yes, you could argue that's a type of philosophy, and it's true. But I'm not trying to push in particular, individual products. You never will see that. I will kind of recommend just, for friends and family, certain items. If I'm asked, or on here, sometimes I'll rate it for you and maybe say, for me personally, I recommend this because I have good experience with it. But I never try to push it and sell things. And so, so this is the thing about ultralight backpacking is that, yes, upgrading certain materials like from steel to titanium, or to go from stainless steel to maybe a polymer, or maybe just try to figure out how you can go without something completely, or maybe go with a multi-use item. Maybe instead of a blade and a handsaw, maybe you can get away with a large multi-tool that has a blade and saw. If that's possible, you can get away with that, then maybe you can cut off a few ounces doing that and more bulk. So it's just like a lot of insight, a lot of combinations of thoughts about this particular field of ultralight backpacking, or even further if you go further with it, and like the super ultralight and so forth, that when you start adding knowledge and skills, plus making things a lot more multi-use and lighter and less bulky, I mean, you can actually apply this in your bug out bag. Can you imagine that, though, making your bug out bag like 10 pounds or less? I mean, or around that, 10 to 15 pounds, and be like really well prepared? I mean, there's some people who are and who have done that. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I personally kind of hover around the 15 to 20 pounds personally for my bug out bag. And but it is easier to really get that up there, depending on how much more water you want to carry. That's something that you really can't get around per se. If you want to carry water, and you probably should carry at least a little bit of water, a half a liter or a liter, in my opinion, minimum. But so what do you think about this? I mean, do you think, what kind of things do you think that we should be able to learn from the ultralight backpacker? I mean, I'm thinking, not only just a weight and size type of issues, but I also think of capabilities that we can be more, have more ingenuity about what we can do and not do, versus when we have all this gear. And I'm not sure about you, but when I go camping and stuff, and I don't go a whole bunch lately, I just take a lot of day walks and day hikes that, man, I just noticed that I don't even use half of what's in my bag. Now, not to say that I may not have to, to use that if there was an emergency, but I mean, there's times I felt like that I could have taken half the stuff out of the bag and just been just fine. So if you're like that, do you ever kind of question of what do we really need? James Yeager did this a little while back. He did his own little version of a bug out bag, if you will. I'm not so sure if he called it that. I think he did. And he just kind of went to a dollar store, I do believe. I'm not 100. I think if my memory serves me right, he went to like a dollar store, and he just bought like some candy bars and some water, and I think he had some type of little sack that he had a string, and it was a very, very limited, minimalist type of system. And apparently he did just fine. I think he did maybe like one overnight, I believe. I think he just did one, and then he kind of extrapolated from there about if he was to spend a few more nights, if he could have done it. And he said he probably would have. And I think he hiked into the woods and did this with some friends, I believe. And there you go. And so, so he was trying to make a point that, okay, you don't have to have a lot. And the foods that you bring and stuff don't really need to be complicated. They just need to be kind of a grab and go. And that's all this is, because really, when you're bugging out to a location. You're trying to go from A to B. It's not like you're trying to live out in the woods for a year. You're basically just trying to get somewhere. And so you're egressing. And so you kind of want to be light and nimble, and you want minimum types of prep work, especially in your food. And so with that being said, he just kind of demonstrated, just like a lot of the people like Dave Canterbury and many others, that even though Dave Canterbury is very tool heavy on purpose, and he tells you why, but his kind of mojo is more like primitive, kind of like a mixture of homesteading mixed in with pioneering, and more of a longer term type of capabilities. I don't think he goes out in the woods with the idea of thinking he's going to get lost or anything. I don't know if even Dave Canterbury can even get lost. But if he did, he could probably build a log cabin within a few months, probably, with the tools he has on him. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. But but just for the average practical dude and gal that's out there, that's just that may have to deal with an emergency, and God forbid have to egress a few miles or more, you know, in the middle of the night for whatever reason. Could be a car broke down and you're in a rural area. Or maybe your house burnt down and you live in a rural area and you have to hike it to a neighbor's house, maybe a few miles away. Or, you know, there's a really bad tornado and you have to move, you know, whatever it is. We know the scenarios that can happen. Or if anybody we know, and this is the problem. We're so aware of this stuff, it kind of haunts us a little bit. That's why we prepare. But whatever the scenario is, you and I know that we probably don't want to be having all this weight on our back. That's just really the last thing you want. I personally don't like a lot of weight on my back. I really don't. I notice for me, anything over 30 to 35 pounds, I really started getting uncomfortable. You may say, well, maybe your pack is uncomfortable. No, I really don't think it's the pack. I really think it's just, you know, it just sucks to have weight on your back, you know, and even if it's well distributed on your hips and stuff. So basically what I'm saying is that we could take some lessons from the ultralight backpackers that we sometimes really don't need more. And really less is more, you know, that whole cliche, but it's true. And if we can get more in that mindset, being more minimalistic and learning how to enjoy and appreciate being more minimal and the things that it can bring us, we'll see that there's actually some capabilities that are actually granted to us that we don't even have. Even though we might have a lot more gear with us, we may not be able to move as fast, be so mobile, to be able to react to emergencies when we have this pack on us. And it could actually put us in more jeopardy the heavier our pack. It could throw us off balance if we're going up a steep incline, or if we're climbing up maybe a side of a cliff or a mountain. There could be some hazards with having a large, oversized pack. Or anything particularly over like 15 to 20 pounds in that range. I think once you get past the 20-some pound mark, I think that you are kind of, you know, I'm not saying for everyone, but just for the average American that doesn't really work out much and stuff, I think it could really strain the body. I think it really could, and you increase dramatically probably the possibility of straining muscles, pulling muscles, maybe even doing some cartilage and tendon problems, stressing things out. So anyways, I just think that if we keep our weight down on our body and our pack, we'll do a lot better in the future. And so, and with that though, thanks for joining me on this bonus video and talking about ultralight backpacking and what it may be able to contribute to us through experience and through, you know, years of different experiments in that field. And basically how it can evolve and maybe be able to be integrated into our preps, our short-term prepping bags and kits, especially our Bugout bags. Try and get that weight down so that we have some more options and more mobility types of capabilities. And with that, though, we'll be better off maybe in the future. And so go ahead and keep prepping. And you know, maybe just take out your Bugout bag tonight and just pull it all out and re-examine it and saying, is this stuff that I bought on a fly when I was emotional? Did I really need all this? Do I need 50 batteries? I mean, seriously. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just unbelievable. Sometimes I'll watch a video and get a little wound up and get kind of stuck or tunnel visioned in a video about prepping. And then I'll add all this stuff in my bag. And then the next day I go through my bag again. I'm like, holy moly, I can't believe I just added, 10 hats in there. Or like an extra pair of shoes or all of this stuff. I'm not saying an extra pair of shoes is bad, but I already have an extra pair of shoes. So I have 2 pairs. So it's just like stuff like that. Like, how many bandanas do you really need, man? How many tourniquets do you? I mean, I don't think I need 3 gallons of water in there. So you can easily go overboard is what I'm saying. So just don't go overboard. Find your balance. And if you can, maybe even try to figure out that balance to, lower the level of that threshold of what you think. Maybe you just need, 1 pair of underwear and 1 extra pair of socks instead of 3. I don't know where you live. You may need 1 for every day, but you'd be surprised though, how many times you can wear the same shirt or the same pants. You'd be surprised if you have to. It's not like the shirt's going to just like melt because you wore it 3 days in a row. Unfortunately though, it will probably smell and you might have some hygiene issues and you want to be clean. But I'm just saying there's a lot of things in an emergency you can get through. So if you can save a few pounds just by not, loading all this extra clothes in there that you may or may not use, maybe just have 1 extra outfit instead of 3. It's just an idea. But if you live in an area that for sure you'll be sweating your what off, or if it's a very cold climate and you have to have part of your shelter system is your clothes, and you have to have that insulation to survive, by all means, do what you need to do. But there's some people that live in very temperate areas, and I've seen their bug out bags, and I'm like, holy moly, we're not in the Arctic, buddy. Or, you know, what are you doing? You know, why do you have to have, 5 shirts and 2 pairs of pants? You know, seriously? Like, it's just a little excessive. So you can kind of trim some things off. I mean, like, you know, like even with tools in particular, we don't have to go overboard. We're not building a house, and we're not cutting down half the forest. So you probably may not need that camp axe. You probably don't need maybe even a folding saw. I mean, you might, but maybe a little folding saw on a multi-tool might be all you need. Or maybe even some multi-tools might be overkill than others. I don't know, whatever your needs are, but I do know that I've looked at my system and go, wow, there's times I've found over 5 flashlights in my bag. And I'm like, how? Because, you know, every once in a while I'll just put another one in and just forget that I have like 2 or 3 others. And so sometimes you have to go through your kit and just thin it out. It's almost like you have to put it through a filter, you know, and filter all this excess out. And then take that excess and put it where it needs to go, because usually other kits may be lacking. Because what I've done is I've gotten a little tunnel vision sometimes on one pack system or kit than others, and I've neglected some of the others. So sometimes you almost have to pull out all of your packs at the same time. It can be a little messy and a little nerve-wracking, but what I personally do is, like, I put one on the bed or one on the floor, maybe one on a chair or couch, and what I do is I kind of open them up at the same time, but keep all the contents separated in their own piles, and then go through and say, okay, I have 2 lights over here. I got a headlamp and a flashlight in this one, headlamp and a flashlight in this one. Okay, I got 2 headlamps in this one and 4 flashlights. And I pull out the extra. And so, and then there's one bag that may not have any flashlights. I'll have to take the extra and put them over there. So this is all common sense, but if you don't do this and keep up with it, sometimes you can definitely find yourself with like a pack that can be 35, even 40 pounds. I've had a pack one time at 50 pounds, and it kind of snuck up on me. And I was wondering why I couldn't get anything in there, or even open it and close it very well, and things were falling out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't hardly even lift it very comfortable. And it was very much straining on my back when I put it on. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even walk out the door with it. And so I re-examined it, and I noticed that I had like about 7 days of food in there, you know, and I had about 2 gallons too many of water. So anyways, going back to the story about this, this whole ultralight backpacking is really helpful to use their philosophy, or this just a whole, you know, genre philosophy of minimizing, or at least getting back to basics and essentials as your key foundation. And anything extra is kind of frivolous or a little bit more of a luxury item, is what they would call it. So as always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you real soon.